So I just spent the last 7 years of my life, since 2018, working for an over-the-phone call center for an internet service provider in customer service. 7 years, almost a decade. Uh, I'm no longer working at that company. I'm not going to say which company it is or why I'm no longer working for them, but that's pretty much been my life for the last 7 years, and now I don't know what to do with myself, so I thought I might as well just go ahead and talk about it. You might think that if I was working customer service over the phone for 7 years, then I must really be an extrovert. I must really be a people person. I must love talking to people. But the truth is, not really. I don't actually like talking to people that much. I don't like interacting with them. I'm kind of an asocial introvert. But that really wasn't an obstacle when it came to working this job, because, I mean, how many of you are working at jobs that you totally enjoy and have fun, and it's something that you'd want to do uh, off the clock, right? Honestly, I feel like someone who might really enjoy interacting with people and talking to people and having chit-chat conversations with them might have a harder time with a job like this, because the truth is, when it comes to working over the phone customer service for a service provider company like internet or phone or cable or whatever, guess what? The only time anyone is ever calling in is because they're upset. No one's calling in because they want to have a pleasant and happy conversation with someone that they want to make friends with. They're all calling in because they're either upset with their bill, or the service isn't working, or because they want to cancel. Those are pretty much the only scenarios in which someone is going to call in. If you're someone who enjoys interacting with people, these are not going to be enjoyable interactions for you. But even despite that, even though, that's the job responsibility, and even though, for me, I'm someone where my social battery gets drained pretty quickly, I would say halfway through my shift every day, I was starting to feel it. I was starting to feel exhausted having to deal with people. I was still pretty good at it. I did it for a long time, and I became pretty good at it over time. And I got a lot of recognition. If you've ever seen The Office, there's the Michael Scott won Best Salesman of the Year award. I didn't get Employee of the Month or anything like that, but I did get two little award plaques at different times, one in 2018 right after I started basically, and then one in 2024. These were recognitions that I got. I also got another one. This is a cute little award they made for me for another accolade that I had achieved. This is something that's honestly pretty easy to do if you're willing to treat it like what it is. It's a job. And you don't even have to be good at it, because the turnover rate at these jobs is so high that they really just want warm bodies in the chairs. You really have to screw up for it to be worth it to them to get rid of you, because the alternative is, customers call in and no one answers the phone, and now that's gonna hurt their service numbers, and that's really the most important thing to them. This was something that I excelled at, even though I didn't enjoy doing it. So you don't have to want to do it. It's just a job. You don't have to enjoy doing it. It's just a job. It's something that, like any job, there are methods for doing it well, and there are ways that it can be done poorly. I learned a lot at this job about how to do it well without letting it kind of wear you down. The thing about customer service jobs, especially call centers, they do have a reputation, and it's pretty well deserved. Like any other video you're gonna find online about this, about people talking about how they worked at a customer service job, especially over the phone, they're gonna tell you I got anxiety, I got depression, it ruined my life, stay away, don't get a job like this. I would say that, it's not necessarily untrue that a lot of people maybe aren't suited to doing something like that long term, because most people aren't used to being yelled at all the time. Like, have you ever seen those videos of like Marines in boot camp where there's a drill sergeant just like right up in their face, screaming at them at the top of their lungs? Like, imagine that. Imagine that scenario of the drill sergeant just screaming at you at the top of their lungs, only it's over the phone and it's 8 hours straight. That's typically what you're gonna get. And most people aren't used to that. Most people like are brought up in a circumstance where they aren't used to just getting yelled at all the time, and so they have a really low tolerance for it. I wouldn't say that I have a high tolerance for it, but it's something where you can either handle it in a way that can minimize the damage, or you can kind of get dragged down into it. And I really learned how to, at the very least, not get pulled into the miasma of anger and negativity that's getting thrown at you over the phone for most of the day. So a little bit more detail. I did start back in 2018 at a company that trained its phone representatives to be universal. There are a lot of companies that have different departments. If you've ever called one of them, you might have been transferred back and forth between departments. One department handles billing questions, one might handle retention, trying to convince you not to cancel. One might handle like tech support. So if you had like, oh, my internet's not working, you get transferred to an entire department that handles that. The company that I worked for wanted all of its representatives to be universal. At least when I joined, I don't know if they've changed it, but I was trained to be a universal representative. So my training period lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And again, going back to like the turnover rate, not everyone in my training class made it through that 6 weeks. I think it started out like somewhere like 18, 20 people or so. By the end of that 6-week period, it did get whittled down to like basically like somewhere around 15 to a dozen. Like, people dropped out during the training before we had even really started doing the job. And then after that, by the time we did actually hit the floor and started taking phone calls, like as legit, like out of training, like for real employees, people started quitting after that too. I think there were like maybe like 8 to 10, maybe less people that were from my original group who were still working at that company. And of those people, a lot of them wanted to get off of the phones as soon as they could and tried to transfer or get promotions to new departments and stop working in the call center part. So that is one thing I would say about call center jobs. It's a foot in the door. You can stick it out for long enough to maybe get like hired to a new position internally at that company. Depending on the company, I don't have a big frame of reference. I haven't worked a bunch of call center jobs. I worked this one job for 7 years. It's not like I worked at Verizon and then AT&T and then whatever. This is my experience based on this one job that I had at this one company. But once you have a job, there's opportunity there, because then you can try and find out information about other departments, about other parts of the company. You're a known quantity at that point. You can rub elbows. It's a lot easier to get a job when you have a job. I will say that for sure. And it's really easy to get hired as a call center customer service rep because they're really desperate for people. I would think even in this economy, even with the job market and the way things are now, people are still quitting and chairs still need to be filled. So when I did the interview, it was a group interview with like me and 2 other people, and like they had like a little group conversation part of it, and then we got pulled into like one-on-ones, and there was a role play test portion of the interview. During the interview, there were 2 things that really kind of solidified me getting that job. The first one was like they asked me the classic like sell me this pen question. I hate that question, but it's honestly really easy to just kind of give them the answer that they're looking for. I kind of went the Wolf of Wall Street approach with it, which you might say is lazy, and I would agree. I just really don't have a lot of respect for that question personally, where they're like, I brought this pen in here. I have a bunch of other pens, but I brought this one. Could you sell me this pen? And I said, well, it does look like a really nice pen, but let me ask you, do you have any other pens on you? Oh, so how are you going to finish this interview without a pen? You're going to need this one, I think. And after that answer, she kind of wrote down on her little interview form for a minute or two. She wrote like a whole little paragraph just based off of that, which was kind of funny. The other portion of the interview that I found out specifically was kind of the clincher. That was kind of the most important part, was the like role play scenario where they had you do a mock phone call with someone who was pretending to be a customer. And the biggest thing they wanted you to do in that role play scenario was they wanted you to do an upsell. And that's why I bring up the sell me this pen thing, because you might be thinking, oh, why are they asking you to sell a pen? Why is there an upsell scenario in this role play for a customer service job? Isn't it just people calling in and saying my internet doesn't work, unplug it, plug it back in? And yeah, that's a lot of the job. But what they really want you to do when you're working this job is to make sales. It is kind of a soft sales position. They want you to answer the customer's questions. Why is my bill going up? Why does my internet not work? But they also want you to try and make more money for the company. They want you to make another sale. If someone calls in and says, hey, my printer isn't working, they want you selling another ink cartridge. If they say, hey, my internet is slow, they want you to sell them like a new internet speed. So if you're ever interested in getting one of these jobs, that is one of the most important factors to go in for, to kind of hammer home, is the fact that you can make sales. Not necessarily like full-blown sign on the dotted line sales. Usually they're soft, kind of like, hey, you already have internet with us, why not spend a little bit more to get a little bit more? Those kind of sales. That's really the thing that's gonna land you the job. That and just kind of basic, what I would consider basic common sense responsibilities, like showing up on time and showing up on the days that you're scheduled to show up, and taking your breaks and lunches when you're scheduled to take your breaks and lunches. You wouldn't think that's such a big deal, but apparently a lot of people can't do that. That's the thing, is I was considered really good at this job. I don't think I did anything particularly special. You end up standing out just by doing the bare minimum sometimes in places like this. Really, for me, like, getting yelled at over the phone's no fun. Sure, no one wants to do that, but at least you're getting paid for it, right? But for me, the worst part about the job was not the part where you're talking to customers over the phone and getting yelled at. Like, that's kind of what you sign up for, right? You know what you're getting into. For me, the part that really was the worst part about the job was kind of the worst part about any white-collar job, any office space kind of job, which is the office politics. Annoying coworkers, middle management who are having power trips, anything that was around the job more so than the job itself. That's why I kind of lucked out, because, I started back in 2018 and I had to go into the office every single day and interact with these people every single day, where you had like middle management who were just like going power crazy with the smallest amount of authority that they could possibly get their hands on. I remember one time I was turned around in my chair at my desk. I wasn't on a call, I wasn't on a chat, I wasn't interacting with a customer, and I was turned around in my chair talking to a coworker of mine. My like middle manager kind of like stood up over her desk and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm talking to Karen." And she was like, why aren't you looking at your screen? I'm like, because I'm not on a call. Like, she literally is like, why aren't you sitting there staring dead ahead looking at a blank empty computer screen for 8 hours straight? Because I'm a human being? Like, what are you talking about? I can stand up from my desk and stretch. I can look around. I can like twist my neck in place. I can turn around and talk to a coworker. Like, you obviously just don't like me. You obviously just don't like me, and you're inventing a problem to have in this moment because you have a bug up your butt. Like, that was the most annoying thing to me. I would rather be on a phone call with an annoying customer. That's the biggest thing, is you kind of have to realize that it's not personal. When customers are calling in and complaining and yelling and shouting about how bad their day is and about how terrible the service is, they're not mad at you. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people kind of struggle to overcome, is because they are yelling at you, but they're not yelling at you. They don't have a problem with you, the human being they're talking with on the phone. The problem that they have is with like the company. Like, let's say you work for Xfinity or Comcast or whatever. They're not even going to remember you 20 minutes after the conversation you have is over. They're just going to remember, like, oh, I called Xfinity today, and they said that, and they wouldn't do this. You're not a person to them, to a customer calling in. You're just Xfinity. You're the Xfinity you're the representation of Xfinity that they talked to. Just, you kind of have to just let it wash off you. Just water off a duck's back, because it doesn't, like, they don't care. Why should you? That's the biggest thing. But when it came to, my coworkers and the people that I was working with in the office, you kind of can't get away from them. So to me, that was the worst part. Like, dealing with these customers, like, okay, they yell at you, then they get mad and they hang up, and then you're done with them. You never have to talk to them again. Whereas everyone else, you're coming in and interacting with them every single day. At least I was, until 2020 happened, and then we got to start working from home. And boy, that was a godsend for me. Things became a lot better after we started working from home after 2020 happened. So I think if you're going to be getting a call center job nowadays, I'm pretty sure most of them are just fully remote now, or they offer it fully remote. So if you're interested in getting a job like this, you're probably going to be able to do it while working from home. And to me, that's a big positive. To me, that makes it a lot more tolerable. So for me, one of the biggest things I learned from having this kind of job is that really anyone can do this kind of job. That's kind of one of the reasons I decided to make this video, is because I looked it up, and other videos that you're going to be seeing on this topic, that if you search it up, most of them are just people being like, oh, working call center is terrible for your mental health. I got anxiety and depression. Like, avoid this career path. I'm not going to disagree that it sucks working in a job where you're just getting yelled at all the time for 8 hours straight every single day by strangers. But like, you really don't have to let it get you down. The biggest problems with jobs like this is not the customers. At least for me. It's, everything kind of around it. Power tripping middle management. It's the fact that you're monitored on literally everything you do at every single point. Depending on what company you're working for, maybe they're gonna really be expecting you to finish these calls within a certain time frame. Like, that kind of stuff to me is way worse than actually interacting with people, with customers calling in. But like, the actual job responsibility of someone calls the call center and you pick up that phone and you talk to them, anyone can do that. When someone's calling in and they're hot and they're mad and they're upset, because that's usually what's going to happen. No one's calling their internet company because they're having a great day and they just want to talk. They're calling because they have something that they need to talk to you about. The worst thing you can do is kind of like create friction. They're calling in, I didn't even give it to him, and you don't know. And you kind of respond with, like, what's your problem? Like, any kind of pushback is going to just make them more upset and make that call harder to get through. The best thing you can do, and honestly, this is kind of a life skill now. It applies not just to over-the-phone customer service. It applies to in-person customer service. It applies to any kind of interaction with someone in any kind of social scenario, professionally or personally. The best thing you can do is to just kind of validate their feelings, kind of just agree with them. If they're calling in being like, the technician was supposed to get here and he was 3 minutes late. The worst thing you can do is like, dude, 3 minutes is not a big deal. Like, get over it. Even if you're not going at it like that, you can still be like, well, 3 minutes isn't that extreme. I'm sorry that they were late by 3 minutes, but hey, I mean, 3 minutes isn't that bad. Like anything like that you want to avoid. In that kind of scenario, the best thing to do really is to be like, oh yeah, I definitely understand your frustration. I would be really upset as well if I was in your position. Anything like that where you're like, yes, the way you're feeling right now is valid, that is going to frame the rest of the conversation. That's the best thing you can do, is to make them feel like the way that they're feeling, the problem that they're upset about is fair to be upset about. Something that I would say, and it would do a pretty good job of de-escalating the customer, is to say, you know what, sir or ma'am, like if I were you, I would be even more upset. That's a really frustrating situation. Let's see what we can do to get this resolved for you. That kind of response instantly made them feel like, oh, okay, you're an ally. Like you're on my side. You're not gonna push back on me. Like you're taking my feelings seriously. And it made it made the rest of the conversation a lot easier. And you can apply that to basically anything, like you're talking to your mother-in-law and she's complaining like, oh, the flight got delayed by a whole 20 minutes. We were sitting on the runway for 20 minutes. Your instinct might be to be like, dude, 20 minutes is not that big a deal. Like, get over it. Like, no, the conversation's gonna go a lot better if you respond with, man, that's crazy that they made you wait for an entire 20 minutes? I would have been running up and down the seats of the plane. Like, that is unacceptable. Just really making them feel like their feelings are valid goes a long way. And it gets you through that tough conversation a lot faster and a lot easier. Another tactic you can kind of use is what's called active listening. And it's really just like repeating the last thing they said to you, but put it in the form of a question. This is something that FBI interrogators or hostage negotiators will do. Something you can do is if they're coming in and they're being like, the technician was 3 minutes late. You can literally be like, the technician was 3 minutes late? And that makes them feel like you're paying attention, and it kind of puts the ball back in their court to keep the conversation going on their end. You don't have to be a great conversationalist. You just kind of have to be able to keep a conversation going. And a really good way of doing that is kind of just repeating the last thing that they said back to them, but in the form of a question. And again, I think that's, something that'll work even outside of that context, even outside of being on a professional, like customer service phone call with someone. It works in any kind of social situation in general. At this job that I worked at for 7 years, it's still so crazy, like almost an entire decade. The biggest thing that I could say about this job is like probably what you already know, which is that, it's not for everyone. But to me, the biggest thing about it is that anyone can do it. It's not that hard to just get yelled at over the phone all day. If you know how to handle that kind of interaction with people. And it's something that you do kind of have to learn how to do through practice. Most people in like a over the phone customer service job or any kind of customer service job in general last like a year, maybe 2. I did it for 7 years, and it wasn't a dream job for me. I did it because it was available and it was really easy to become good at. And I'm not even just talking about like dealing with the customer's part. It's the stuff around that too, like the metrics, the measurements, the monitoring. Like once you kind of know what the company you're working for cares about and is looking at and is looking for, it's really easy to just kind of jive with that metric system, play along with it without having a lot of problems or frustrations. And to a lot of people, that might feel like really stressful, that you're being monitored and expected to explain your status at all times. But once you know what they're looking for and like what matters to them, it's pretty easy to work within it and around it. The biggest part that I wouldn't have been able to work around or within was definitely the office politics part of it. But thankfully, now that, working from home in this industry at least is so much more prevalent and available as an option. That's not really so much a problem you have to deal with that much anymore. You can just set up your laptop and take the calls from home, and you don't got to deal with Michael Scott coming over to your desk and like messing around with you, trying and then getting upset when you don't mess with him back. You know what I mean? So really, at this point, after working that job for 7 years, and now I'm no longer working there, all I got left are stories. All I got are stories about stuff that happened to me with customers and my coworkers at that place, and all I can do now is talk about them. So this is kind of the introduction of everything regarding the job that I've been doing for the last 7 years, kind of a flyover view of it. I want to do more videos talking about it. If you're interested in seeing them, please like this video, comment if you have any questions about the job, or if you have questions about like my experience, or maybe you are in a job like that or are looking for a job like that for whatever reason. If you're looking for a job and that's a job that's available, if there's anything you want to know, please do inquire. Please do write your comment below. I will read them and I might go ahead and address them in a future video if this one does well. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.